is Mark Jason Solofa. I've been a barber now going on 7 years. Prior to that, I used to work in the mortgage industry and insurance for about 17 years. My degree's in business administration. And then I got laid off in 2008 and was looking to do something different. More time to be able to spend with my family, especially my daughter, who at the time was about 4 or 5 years old. I'm a single father. So the one encompassing thing that allowed me to do all of that was barbering. And I just remember going to a barber shop in the early years. And saw that the barbers enjoyed what they did, and the ambiance not much different from the shop here. So that was the direction I went. I've had my shop here, which is called Mark Jason Solofa Men's Grooming, located in Berkeley, going on 3 years. I started off just as a 1-chair parlor, now it's at 2 chairs. When I opened my first shop here in Berkeley, well, first and only shop right now, it was about 3 years ago, but I had 0 clients when I first opened up. I was living in a time in Livermore, which is about an hour plus away from here. So the goal really was to open up a shop and see what happens, because I didn't have any clientele. I had worked at a couple places before this, an old school traditional shop in Pleasanton and Art of Shaving. So I felt I had the skill sets ready to open up, and I felt with my business degree, I'd be allowed to build up a reputation and brand. So yeah, building the shop here, and then just Yelp reviews as I started. My goal really, when I found out about Yelp, was to look at the Yelp reviews in a 20-mile radius of my own, because I never used Yelp personally. I didn't know how it was used. And I looked at the barbershop Yelp reviews in that 20-somewhat mile radius and really focused in on the 1 and 2 stars. Where were they dropping the ball? Where were they not exceeding or meeting the client's expectations? And those 1 and 2 stars were fairly consistent across the board in terms of customer service. There was a lack of customer service. So I felt, as a barber, being a customer service related industry that barbering is, which should be all about the customer, if I focus in on improving the customer service, there should be a minimal amount of discrepancies in terms of them leaving here unhappy. In that hour service that I give them, I should be able to build up a good enough rapport and relationship so they feel comfortable with me to say that when I show them the mirror, that they weren't happy with me, be able to express that discontent before they leave, then get on the computer and say something about it. And I've been fortunate that sort of mindset has allowed me to grow in this last 3 years by just staying in my own lane, not trying to be everybody's barber. The focus is just to do the best that I can. They said barbering is essentially 70 to 80% personality, 30 to 20% technical skill. And some people may argue those percentages, but I, for a fact, over the last 7 years, have been working basically just on personality. Because my goal has always been to create a relationship with a client. A client, once you build a relationship, they no longer become a customer, they become a client, become a friend. That dynamic, that transition from just a first-time client to a lifelong client comes from you making the connection from personality. They like to come, they like to talk to you about life. The first haircut is just about the needs and wants of their haircut. But after that, it becomes the wants and needs of the job they're looking for, the relationship that they're going through, trying to have a family. That's where you as the person make that connection, because you have those life skills. Maybe you went through a divorce, maybe you have a child, maybe you got laid off. Now it becomes about, I can communicate to this person as a better barber because I have more to offer them than just a haircut or more than just a shave. As a kid, I used to draw a lot as a kid. My ideal job as a kid was to draw comics for Marvel, but I never really took any art classes. I took 1 art class as a senior in high school, and then I went off to college for what I thought was going to be a fine art degree. But I got discouraged when I looked at all the other students walking around with accomplished portfolios of their painting and their work. And because I was fearful, I changed. I changed into business because it was comfortable and something that I thought I could do better. So all those years working in business, I never got to use the artistic side of my brain. So when I got laid off and I was sitting at my desk, I was thinking, whatever I do going forward has to allow me to tap into the artistic side. It has to allow me to still interact with people, but not over a phone behind a desk. It has to be in person, face to face. It has to allow for me to have a flexible schedule, because I am a single father. At the time my daughter was young, and I want to be able to spend these formidable years of her life with her and mold her as her father, and not have to worry about somebody at daycare doing that for me. Especially since I don't have family in here in California as well. And the one intersecting point that allowed for those things to me was barbering. not just in terms of how you cut hair, because that's an art, but even in the ambience of my shop and decorating the shop myself, allow me to use my artistic eye. The music that's playing has to tie into the ambience of the shop, which has to tie into the presentation of what I wear, because we are selling an experience here. From the moment that the gentleman or the client, whoever the client is, walks through the door, they have to feel a moment of impact when that door opens, that this is what my brand is all about, this is what my image is all about, this is the experience that they're going to get. And that translates into Yelp reviews, because clients these days know a lot more about us as the haircutters than we know about them before they sit in the chair. So by the time they sit in the chair, they've already looked at your website, they've already looked at Yelp, they've already looked at your Instagram, your Facebook. So if you're not who your reputation says you are by the time they sit in your chair, there's more likely for them to be disappointed in the service before the clipper even gets turned on. Okay. So what I do in terms of becoming a barber and the artistic side and being the artist allows me to better understand what I would expect when I walk in the door. And if I can create that for myself, then I know that I've successfully been able to create it for my clients as they come in. There's definitely been a very big resurgence in barbering over the years, more recent years, thanks in part to a lot of these shows like Mad Men, Boardwalk Empire, a lot of these movies that incorporate themed periods, 30s, 40s, 50s, we see a lot of these undercuts from Brad Pitt's movie Fury. So a lot of these things are here because it's popular now. But because it's popular now, there's a lot of people that are not industry related taking advantage of all those opportunities. I consider myself what the industry calls traditional barbering. My focus is more on the basics of barbering, the quality of the haircut, the quality of the shave, the quality, more importantly, of the customer service and building relationships. With that, and being customer service industry comes a great deal of humility. That a lot of people that are donning these aprons or donning the barber vests or the smocks are lacking. In the school systems now, we have a lot of students, and I've seen this myself as a student when I was going through trade school and as an instructor going through trade school, teaching at the trade schools. There's a tendency for a lot of people to consider themselves better than what they really are, technically. There are a lot of self-proclaimed master barbers in the industry. There's a lot of self-proclaimed master barbers that are still in barber school. And that is the part that is missing the humility, integrity of our trade. That's what our trade is missing. You can't self-proclaim yourself to be one thing if you haven't paid the dues in a trade that's centuries old and you don't understand the history. How can you go forward if you don't understand the history of the trade? So I myself consider as a traditional barber is a keeper of the trade, a keeper of what I believe is traditional. And yes, we have to change with the times. Barbering took a big hit in the 60s, 50s, 60s, when we didn't change with the times, and we didn't change with the hairstyles. And then the Beatles became popular, and barbers couldn't keep up to date with those styles, so men forewent the barbershops and they went to the salons. And barbershop culture started to die. If it wasn't for the black barbershops to keep us alive, more than likely barbering would have died. So we owe that to the black barber community for keeping this tradition of ours alive. We're going through that same sort of transition now where everyone feels that they have to be able to do an old school haircut. It has to be side part, it has to be a pompadour, it has to be a slick back, it has to be an undercut. To the extent where now all you see on Instagram for a lot of parts is just the same haircut a lot of times. But we have to think outside of that box, and we have to be flexible in terms of this, not just the service we provide, but the skill sets that we provide. There shouldn't be massive barbers being self-proclaimed if they can't use their shears. If you can't do a haircut all shears, you're not a master barber. And you should question whether you are a barber if you're not able to use all the tools that are available to us, like your shears. So yeah, where do I feel the industry is going? I think right now we're in a bubble. I think everybody's in a very comfortable bubble because it's popular. You see a lot of TV ads, TV shows that's all about barbering. But when the resurgence dies and the bubble pops, who's still going to be there at the end? Barbering should be, and I think I've mentioned this before, it's like a plane, horizontal plane. Classic barbering, traditional barbering, this is always relevant. Okay? This is always relevant. So as trends come and go, up and down, at some point in time, that trend has to cross what's traditional, what's classic. Okay? The trend will go, it will disappear, but this will always stay true. Everyone's living in the curves. Everyone's living up here, living down here, but they forget that if you don't know your roots and where you're from, how you expect to know where you're going. So I hope that we're all around at the end of this bubble part. But I want a lot of barbers out there to understand that you can't just think of this little box of what's current now. You have to think of what was popular back in the days of Egypt when we were barber surgeons, that we were royalty, we were considered as barbers. Our trade was one of the top trades in society. You know, to go from barber surgeons and the industry elite down to now, oh, I'm a barber. Oh, that's cute. That's not a real job. You know? How then can we uplift the image of this trade that we are supposedly so proud to say that we are a part of? That's what I look to do for this industry. That's what I know a lot of other people are trying to do, is maintain the integrity of this trade so people can look at us and say, what do you do? I'm a barber. Man, that's awesome. You know? So in our industry, there's different routes you can go. There's more than one way to get to the end result. So there are different philosophies. A lot of people are just volume-based, quantity-based. So the tendency is that the more heads that you cut, the more money that you'll make. There's another side of us that say, and mind you, in that volume-based philosophy, there's minimal room for what we call good customer service or good customer experience, right? A lot of barbers out there are saying like it's not about an experience, it's about just getting a haircut, send them on their way, right? And then there are barbers like myself that are all about the experience, which means making sure that from start to finish, when the client walks in the door, sits in the chair, gets their service and leaves, they leave not only just looking better, but feeling better about themselves. Because of the relationship that I have with the client, they're able to talk to me about life. The haircut now is secondary. The haircut's not even the main reason why they come in anymore. It's just a byproduct of why they come in. So there's two different schools of thought there. Experience versus volume. I can cut hair. Vick Damone can cut hair. We cut hair differently. But if we look at the success of the industry being 70 to 80% personality, customers are going to go to Vick Damone because of his haircut, but because of his personality as well, as mine will come to me for those same reasons. If you were to take our two clientele and switch, put my clients in Vick's chair and Vick's clients in my chair, we'll probably only see those clients one time. Not just because their haircuts and styles are different, because we cut hair differently, but the experience they get in terms of what we can talk about will be different. If I can't offer my client anything more than a haircut, then that client's loyalties are not to here, it's to anywhere. Because now all that client is thinking about is, I just need a haircut. If I'm offering that client a haircut, and I remembered his vacation, and I remembered his kids' names, and I remembered that his wife was in the hospital, and I remembered that when he went on vacation 2 years ago, and he's going on vacation again this year, that I remembered what he did 2 years ago and what he did now, I have now elevated myself past the barber that just offers the haircut. And the client is willing to pay me more based on that relational experience than just what he would pay for someone just to cut his hair. It's not good enough just to know how to cut hair. Regardless if you're the best hair cutter in your school, that doesn't mean anything once you get out unless you're able to build a clientele. Again, marketing and Solofa, hopefully some of the information I've offered will be helpful, will prove helpful, will just give you a change of perspective. There's always more than one way to look at something. The glass half full is still a glass half empty. But I've been in this industry short enough amount of time, but long enough amount of time to know that if you believe in what you're doing and you love it, there's no reason why you can't succeed. So, iron sharpens iron, each one teaches one, and Cain was Abel's brother. I am my brother's keeper, so this is my information, right? You guys